Hey guys, Parfax here. Today I am bringing you a very fun type of video for you. I typically don't do a lot of these, but I figured I would give you guys a little sneak peek on what my thoughts are when it comes to small group play in Crowfall. I'm going to give you a tier list. We have all of the classes here, all the promotions. We're going to rank every single one of them from S to D. D basically being I wouldn't play this ever in small group. S being absolutely god tier. You probably know which classes you'll find up in that tier, but we're gonna go ahead and get into it. Now, before we officially get into the video, I just wanted to let you know that if you're looking to do anything Crowfall, you're looking to get a 10% discount. You can look in the link in the description down below. It'll give you the 10% discount code. And you can always follow me on twitch.tv/Parfaxgaming. I'll be streaming Crowfall Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday currently, and it'll be mainly 9 p.m. till midnight / 1 o'clock. We're gonna go a little bit later. Typically I've been streaming earlier, but we're gonna try it out, see if you guys enjoy that. And here's the video. All right, so we are going to rank the Crowfall classes / promotions in the game when it comes to small group PvP. Now this is going to be anything from 1vxing to anything up to like a 5v5 type of atmosphere. Now I know 1vxing and 5v5s can be very different, and I'll kind of judge them as we go. We're gonna say this isn't going to be solo play. This is going to be in a group of probably about 3 to 5, and we're gonna say that you have one healer in your group. I know that's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts, and I'll make comments on these different classes when we go through these lists, but that's kind of how we're going to judge it, because honestly there's certain classes in here that need a healer, certain ones don't. Most of them do. There's a few that don't. The few that don't, you're probably going to notice they're going to be higher on the list. All right, let's get started with the Alpha Warriors. So the Alpha Warrior is a champion. It is the full damage big boy AoE neck breaker juggernaut. This class is really good in large scale PvP, especially when they get gear. So right now we don't have a whole lot of gear. They don't have a whole lot of sustain, and they really focus on big AoE damage. Now they are decent still at killing people. They can 1v1, not as effectively as other classes, but they still put out a lot of damage. So I'm actually gonna put them in the B tier. Now the reason I'm putting them in the B tier and not higher is just because they don't have really any sustain. They are a melee class, which a lot of times will give you a disadvantage when you don't have a whole lot of sustain. So they're going to do a lot of damage. They can do some single target, not as good as some others, but they really don't bring a whole lot to the fight when it comes to small group PvP. They're essentially damage users, and that's about it. They don't really bring a whole lot of utility. Now, I'm not saying that you can't be great with an Alpha Warrior in small group. You definitely can. It's just not necessarily top tier. Next, we have the Arbiter. The Arbiter, I'm going to slap right here. The Arbiter is such a great class when it comes to healing. You can do healing and CC. The Arbiter is absolutely amazing. They're great in, if you're, have 2 people, you have 3 people, 5 people, 10 people, 100 people. Arbiters are great. You can't really go wrong when it comes to the Arbiter class. I haven't played the Arbiter myself that much, but when you have an Arbiter in your group, you're going to be really good off. They bring a lot of group utility. They bring heals, they bring CC, they bring a little bit of everything, and they are solidly in the A class when it comes to small group / 1vxing. Next, we have the Archdruid. So I will say that, again, the Archdruid I don't have a ton of experience with. I know a lot of people who have. We're going to put them solidly in the D tier. They're really not great at anything. They can be halfway okay at very large scale PvP, but Archdruid's a hard class to actually balance. They seem to either be completely insane or not very good at all. And when it comes to small group, they don't really bring any utility. They were like a hybrid healer DPS class, but they kind of nerfed that. They were kind of broken, actually. They kind of nerfed it. They nerfed it in a way that really doesn't make them. You never see Archdruids anymore. I honestly don't know anybody that actually plays one at launch. I'm sure there's people out there that do. I'm sure some of the other bigger guilds, I'm sure they have 1 or 2 people. I mean, they have assassins they bring to big scale PvP. So You can bring an assassin, you can bring anything. But yeah, the Archdruid is just kind of meh. It really doesn't do anything special anymore, and is kind of sad. Next, we have Archer. Now, Archer is... it's a weird one. I'm going to put this in the A class. Having said that, I'm only putting it in the A class because right now the Archer doesn't have gear. Now, you probably could easily put it down here to B in its current state, but we're going to slot it one slot up because once you get gear in your Archer, which people are going to start getting more and more crafted gear as of right now, the Archer gets really, really insane in small group PvP. If you have a very skilled Archer that can kite, there's no class that can essentially catch it. I mean, even Champion is about the only class that really can stay on an Archer. The Archer can just kite so well, and they are absolutely insane in small group when they get some good gear. And I'm not talking War Tribe gear, I'm talking like decent crafted gear. Once they get decent crafted gear, the Archer is solidly up here in S. Like, the Archer will beat out Wardens. Like, they'll beat out anything once they get a lot of gear, but we're not quite in that stage yet, so we're just gonna put them in the A. They're still a great class. I actually lost to an Archer the other day on my Warden. Actually, technically, as on my Brigand. But I just couldn't catch him. They had more movement skills than I did. I was on a half elf and they were on a Minotaur. I know I lost to a Minotaur Archer. But they had the range on me, and they could move farther than me, and I couldn't do anything about it. I line of sighted them. It was a really close battle. It was really fun. It was a good both of us. But Archer is just really good. Archmage D. you can build the Archmage to be halfway decent. Now Archmage is my siege tune. If you haven't seen me out there on the battlefield when we're in the big groups, I'm running the Archmage. I absolutely love the Archmage. The Frostweaver is a very fun class. The Archmage is just a siege, a big AoE tune. You can build it to have a more type of single, but it doesn't really have any sustain, and its big power comes from its AoE. So it really doesn't succeed in the, you know, small group. You know, we'll put it C tier. It's not. I mean, I shouldn't put it down here with the Archdruid because it is better than the Archdruid. We'll put it in the C tier, but if you're looking to do a lot of small group PvP, the Archmage is just really, it's not the greatest class. I love the class itself. It's my favorite siege tune class. It's just not the greatest when it comes to small group and like 1vx situations. Now to the Barbarian. You guys know where this is going. This is going to the D. No, I'm just kidding. It's going to the S class. The Barbarian's insane. I actually have a video, you probably will come out before this, of a Barbarian build. You can literally take a Barbarian and build him anyway, and it's going to be insane. The Barbarian has CC, it has healing, it has a little bit of damage depending on how you build it. It's just a great class. It is a little bit hard to 1vx if they have a healer. If they don't have a healer, you can kind of whittle them away. But the Barbarian doesn't quite do enough damage to get through some healers, and some sustain classes can be a little bit, they can give you a little bit trouble, especially one class on here, which is the Warden, which, let's be honest, everybody has a problem with the Warden. But Barbarian's great. They're so tanky, they do decent enough damage, and they have CC. They have everything. They're great. So next is the Battle Rager. The Battle Rager is the tank version of the Myrmidon, and it's not a bad class. It's not necessarily as good as the Barbarian, but it's definitely not down there with like the Archmage and Archdruid. It has some group utility. It's got a little bit of self-sustain. It does wear plate, which is a positive. It has a net pool, which allows people to, you know, to catch people, and it's actually pretty decent. We're gonna put the Battle Rager in the B class. I can't quite put it up there with the Archer and the Arbiter, just because it's not quite, it doesn't sustain as much as like the Barbarian. The Barbarian probably does a little bit more damage if you spec it correctly, and it's a little bit more sustainable, and it has a little bit more CC. So the Barbarian kind of does what the Battle Rager does, just a little bit better. Now the Battle Rager does have a net pull. The Battle Rager does wear plate armor, but it's not a bad class at all. I've seen a lot of people do very well with Battle Ragers, and it's still a really good class. It's definitely probably above the alpha when it comes to small group. But I definitely don't think it's anywhere. I don't think it's quite up here in the S or A tier. Blackguard and just assassins in general. Blackguard is the male melee assassin. It is the only assassin that wears mail. It does have a little bit of sustain, but you're going to see a trend when it comes to these assassins that we're just going to put them down here below. Blackguard doesn't really bring a lot to the table. Actually, none of the assassins do. But the Blackguard has at least a little bit of self-sustain. They can kind of brawl a little bit with other classes. But in all honesty, the Blackguard just isn't that good. Now, people are going to be out there, oh, look, Parfax, I got 25 kills. I mean, you can get kills in the Archmage, you can get kills in the Archdruid. Like, you can get a lot of kills on any class. But the Blackguard's just not something that you're ever going to really want in your group, unfortunately. And it's just not a great small scale group type of class. It's a pretty good, like, I use them as my miners and stuff like that, and when you get some decent gear, they can solo stuff pretty easily. But they're just not terribly great at when it comes to small group PvP. Next, we have the Brigand. The Brigand is the stealthy archer, and the Brigand wears leather armor, which I say that only because of the Warden. The Brigand's okay. It really just doesn't hold quite a candlestick to the Warden. But we'll put the Brigand in the B class. It's definitely not up there with the Arbiter, the Barbarian, and the Archer, but it still is useful. It does have some of its uses. It is a stealthy class, which stealthy classes definitely get knocked down a peg in almost all of them. But the Brigand does bring some traps, so it brings some CC. It does have a nice self-sustaining ability with its ultimate, and just as kind of like a budget Warden that wears leather armor, essentially. It kind of sounds bad because the Warden's so good right now. But the Brigand does have stealth, which is it's a better solo, than some of these other classes. But it's just not quite up to the Archer, Arbiter, or Barbarian. Next, we have the Conqueror Merm. The Conqueror Merm is it's the melee control class, which is like the CC class when it comes to the Myrmidon. We're gonna put it above. You know what? Let's put it up here with A. Now, this is definitely a harder class than something like the Arbiter or the Archer. But I have seen a couple people really use the Conqueror Merm to its absolute full potential. Like, I've seen some people absolutely dominate on the Conqueror Merm. Now, it is a higher skills capped type of playstyle. It's not as easy as something like the Barbarian and the Warden, or even the Archer to some extent. Now, the Archer does have a skill ceiling that's pretty high, but its baseline when you get some gear is pretty low. But the Conqueror can do some pretty insane things, and I definitely think it is, lower than the Arbiter or the Archer when it comes to small group. But I definitely think it is very good and definitely deserves to be in the A class. It's really good. Crusader, we're just gonna put in the B. The Crusader is just a straight healer. It's a great large-scale PvP healer. If you're in small group, you're still gonna want to have a Crusader, but the Crusader really thrives in like the siege aspects of PvP. It doesn't bring as much to the table as something like an Arbiter. The Arbiter brings a little bit more CC, just brings a little bit more tools to the table than the Crusader when it comes to small group play. But the Crusader's a great healer, and anytime I'm in a group, I love to have the Crusader in my group. So, Cutthroat. Do I want to put it in C or do I want to put it in B? We're gonna put the Cutthroat in. We'll put an Assassin up in the B tier. It's definitely lower than these, in my opinion. But the Cutthroat, if it gets some gear, can do some insane damage. It is the epitome of an assassin. If you have a level advantage and a gear advantage, the Cutthroat can be absolutely devastating to somebody. They basically just do damage and that's it. When you start getting to like 5v5s, they're definitely not as good as really any of these other classes. But especially in like the 3v3s, if you can get a nice opening up on a cutthroat, if you have decent gear and stuff like that, you can absolutely obliterate someone in no time. So they're really good. Dirge. Let's see. They don't really do anything. They're a tanky Ganetian, tanky duelist. They really don't specialize in anything other than wearing plate armor. They're kind of like the Blackguard in the fact that they can do some stuff, but they don't really specialize in anything currently. I don't know what to say about the Dirge. I used to like the Dirge a little bit, but they switch everything around. I don't like it nearly as much. It doesn't really do a whole lot of damage. It doesn't really provide a whole lot. It does a little bit of CC, but that's about it. The Dirge is just kind of meh. Next, we have Earthkeeper. Earthkeeper, we're going to put in the C class. Again, a healer. I know you're like, man, Parfax, you're putting some healers really low. The Earthkeeper I love in large scale, and as a champion, I used to love playing with Earthkeepers. Earthkeepers does have kind of like a skill ceiling, and you have to have people don't actually walk through the balls when they don't need them. It's unfortunate. Earthkeepers are kind of hard. Now, it can be funny if you put an Earthkeeper with an Archer in a 2vx situation. It can be really insane, because what the Earthkeeper can do is they can buff the Archer. And remember how I said the Archer needs a lot of gear? Well, the Earthkeeper can actually supplement that a little bit by really buffing the Archer. They can just do some really cool things. I think the Earthkeeper still has beam. If it doesn't, I'm sorry. But Earthkeeper is just okay. It's not really a healer that we use very much anymore. But it's not too bad. Next, we have the Fnatic. The Fnatic's really good. The Fnatic is we're going to put him definitely up here in the S tier. I mean, the A tier. If I had to rank him, I'd probably put Fnatic right there. Actually, I'd probably put... Nah, we'll put it that way. This is about kind of the way I'd rank him. The only reason why the Fnatic is not a little bit higher is because it has no self-sustain. If it has a healer, a nice little pocket healer, if there's like an Arbiter with it, then it's definitely really good. The Fnatic is essentially the caster version of the Ranger. It does a lot of single target damage. Its ulti is really good. You can stealth and kind of get away. But the stealth is really good if you have a healer that can heal you while you're in stealth. If you don't have a healer, then you're just kind of delaying the inevitable and you're going to die anyway. But if you do have a healer, the Fnatic is insane. I used to really play a lot of the Fnatic. Well, its name's changed a few times. But I used to play a lot of the Fnatic. The Fnatic's really good, a lot of fun. And if you haven't played it, you should give it a try. Next, Frostguard. Frostguard, we're going to put in the B category, where we would put it probably like right here. The larger the group, the better the Frostguard is. The Frostguard is essentially a tank debuffer class, which is ranged. They do a lot of good things. The bigger the group, the better the Frostguard is. They can debuff your enemies a lot. They don't put out a whole lot of damage. You can spec them for damage, but their big thing that they do is they're a debuffer class, and it's pretty insane. They're not bad in small group by any means, but sometimes you want a little bit more damage or maybe like a healer instead. So Frostguard's good, just not that great in super small scale. The Fury Templar, we are going to put here in the C. It really doesn't do a whole lot. We could probably we'll put it down here in the D. The Fury is okay in large scale. It's still not that great. It's the CC Templar. They are super tanky, pretty much impossible to kill. But they don't bring a whole lot. You can build them a little bit debuffer, which is how you probably should build the Fury. They can get their hit points up to max. They're pretty tanky, but that's kind of all they do. There's nothing really special about them, unfortunately. Ice Caller, we're gonna put in the mid B category. They're a pretty decent healer. They are the Frostweaver healer. Essentially, they put down puddles on the ground that you have to come to, and can be really good. The only reason why I don't put them up higher, and I think they are definitely towards the top end here of the B category. They're almost an A. Is they are a little bit stationary, and sometimes in small group you move more than in large group. There's not really this like push and pull. There's kind of just like a kite game going around a lot of times, or just if you're just fighting a bunch of melee, that's fine. The Ice Caller is insane. The Ice Caller can put down their AoE, can dance around the melee, and you can heal you or your allies inside the little pools. But Ice Caller is really fun to play, and it's a Frost Weaver, so Frost Weavers are always really cool. But they're not quite up there with the other classes, but they are still really good, and you still want them in your class. Inquisitor, I'm actually going to put the Inquisitor up here in the A. They're kind of like the Arbiter in the sense that they can actually like do some things other than just heal. They actually do halfway okay damage, just ironically. They are, oh, this is the Frost, or the Confessor healer. And they're actually just good overall. I've never actually played one, but I know a lot of people that have, and I've played with one, and they're really good. They have a get out of jail free card in their ultimate. They have pretty decent heals. They have decent damage. They're just overall a pretty good class. And if you're looking to play a healer but like to do some damage, the Inquisitor is really good. Paladin's a weird one. Paladin we're going to put in the B class, mainly specifically because the Paladin can be literally S depending on your situation, or it can be like C depending on your situation. The Paladin is the Templar that is a stationary healer. It's great in like melee fights. The Paladin is literally unkillable. Really insane if you want to play a insanely tanky healer in the middle of the fray, DPS, or inside like the melee DPS inside there. The Paladin is absolutely insane. But if you're going against a bunch of ranged people, the Paladin very lacks in all aspects. It really can't do a whole lot. You can build it to where it does a little bit more, but it's not very good if you're playing against some ranged comp. Pit Fighter, we're gonna put it up here in S. I know I probably could put it in A, and it probably deserves to be an A, but Pit Fighter is just so tanky, so sustainable. It can kill people. It's just an overall good class. Not quite as good as the Barbarian. I think the Barbarian, and this is the tank champion, by the way. The Barbarian's a little bit better, I think, than the Pit Fighter. The Pit Fighter's obviously more, it's tankier. Does less damage, but sustain is pretty insane. Now, it's funny. Actually, no, we're going to put it in the A for this reason. We're going to put her down here in A because in 5v5s, the Pit Fighter kind of sucks. The Barbarian actually is not the greatest in 5v5s either, but its really small group is so good. That's why I have it still up here in A. The Pit Fighter soaks a lot of damage. It's great in large scale. You have super good sustain. You have a lot of things, but they just, until they get some decent gear and weapons, they're just kind of tanky and don't do a whole lot of damage. So we'll put them down in A because you're never going to die on a Pit Fighter, and you still can kill people on the Pit Fighter, but it doesn't really shine kind of like the Barbarian. Radical, we're going to put in the A class. The Radical is the cleric damage dealer. This class does insane damage. The better gear you get for this thing, the absolute juggernaut it becomes. It is very good in large scale PvP. It is good in small scale PvP. It is good in 1v1s against a lot of classes. The amount of sheer damage a Radical can put out is absolutely insane. Now, it is gated behind its ultimate for the most part. So when your ultimate's down, you are kind of weak, but the Radical is absolutely deadly when your ultimate is up, and it is actually a ton of fun to play. I played it a lot when it was absolutely broken. They nerfed its survivability a little bit, which kind of put it right where it needed to be, and it is still a great class whether you want to do small group or large group. We were doing duels, and the Radical was actually like knocking off some of the best duelers. So it was pretty fun, pretty cool. It has the ability to go true damage. It's insane. Sanctifier, D. Sanctifier is bad in pretty much every aspect. It is the melee confessor. This used to be the absolute S tier on everything, but they nerfed its range. They made it to where you can't get more range, and Sanctifier literally is like the Fury Templar. It really just doesn't do anything. It's a melee class that if it had range, or you could give it more range, would actually be like move up the tier list. But the fact that it has absolutely no range is pretty disappointing, and just a class that I wouldn't suggest really anybody to play. Now for the knight classes. So for the Secutor Knight, this is going to be in the C class. The only reason why it's not probably in the D class, and this is the Tank Knight, is because it has a chain pull. Chain pull can be pretty good, but it doesn't really bring a lot to the table when it comes to small group. It's got some buffs. It's got the chain pull, but Secutor's really fallen out of favor in a lot of groups. Even in large scale, the Secutor's starting to fall out of favor. If I'm doing small scale, I would much rather have any of the other Myrmidons than the Secutor Knight. It's just not that great. Next, we have the Sentinel. The Sentinel's a little bit better than the Secutor. We're going to put it up here in the B class, which is where most of the classes are, honestly. The Sentinel is the CC version of the Knight. Again, it doesn't do a ton of damage, doesn't bring a ton to the table, but it does bring a little bit of CC. It does have a chain pull. We're going to put it above the Secutor, and it's definitely above like the Earthkeeper, the Dirge, the Blackguard, the Archmage. It's definitely probably in this category. It's kind of like the Cutthroat, where it does definitely serve a different type of play style, but kind of niche, kind of you don't necessarily want one in small group, but if you have one, you know, you'll still be fine. You can still kill many of people with the Sentinel. And I will have to take a second here to say these are all just, one, my opinion, and two, just because you play an Archdruid or a Fury doesn't mean you're not going to go out there and kill people and have a ton of fun in small group. This is just a tier list of saying this is the best in my opinion, and then it kind of goes down from there. I have personally killed people in small group on Furies. I haven't really played a whole lot of Sanctifiers. I've killed him in Archmage, Blackguard, Dirge, Frostguard, Brigand. You know, I've all the way through here, I have done small scale group, you know, small scale play. I've done, you know, medium group play. I've done 1v, you know, like solo play. I've done it all on most of these classes. So just because I say, you know, maybe Brigand isn't as good as Conqueror doesn't mean if you play a Brigand, you had to go roll a Conqueror. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just kind of giving you guys a fun little, you know, exercise here of me saying what I think is kind of good for the small, very small group play. Slayer used to be the king of everything. It was great in large scale. It was great in small scale. It was absolute annihilation for 1v1s. It's C. Doesn't do anything now. It doesn't do enough damage. It doesn't provide CC anymore. It's just kind of a mat class. It is the duelist that mainly rocks dual pistols. It's kind of cool because it would be a ranged assassin with stealth and stuff like that, which can be really cool. But they just don't really have a whole lot of damage currently. They don't really bring any CC to the table. They just aren't really that good right now. They're kind of like in the Dirge, where they're kind of like meh. They're probably like slightly better than the Dirge. They're probably like right here. They're probably like at the top of the C class. They're probably better than all these classes, maybe like bottom of the B. They're just not that great anymore. Stormcaller, we're gonna put in the B class. The Stormcaller is essentially a lightning mage that really focuses on AoE damage, but its single target is better than the Archmage on pretty much every form. You can build specifically the Archmage to have more single target than the Stormcaller. The Stormcaller just naturally has a decent amount of small group stuff. In 5v5s, the Stormcaller goes up a little bit. It's more of like an A tier. But if you're doing like 3 people in your group, the Stormcaller doesn't provide a ton of actual like flat damage, but still really good class, a lot of fun. I have played a massive amount of Stormcaller. Still really good class. We're gonna put her in the B tier. Swordsman, we're gonna put in the B tier as well. We're running out of room here in the B tier. I imagine there's probably gonna be more B tier here. Maybe not. But the Swordsman is the best of the knights. I would probably put it like somewhere up in here. I definitely put it above the Sentinel. It's the damaging knight class. It has a chain pull. It damages. It doesn't do as much damage as some of the other melee classes, but still really fun class to play. It does a lot of damage, and it's just overall good class. Titan, we're gonna put Titan here in the A class with the Conqueror. Conqueror may be a little bit better, but a well-played Titan is probably S tier. Maybe like S minus tier, because there's a couple classes up there that the Titan just can't beat. But the Titan is absolutely insane. A well-played Titan, damaging Myrmidon, if you can do your crashes correctly, is absolutely insane. A Vandal, we're gonna put it down here and see. The Vandal is the other version of the Ganetian, the duelist, and it's okay. Again, doesn't do a whole lot down here with the Dirge and the Slayer. The Ganetian, unfortunately, the duelist is just kind of down here in the C tier. Slayer's probably the best. Vandal can be really good. It can be like sort of like a budget cutthroat, but just in the current meta isn't that great. Vanguard Scout, I'm putting it down here D. I haven't seen anybody even use a Vanguard Scout to semi-optimal. It's the basically like CC assassin. I don't know. I don't know why people even play this class, to be completely honest. If you do, let me know in the comment section down below. I haven't played a ton of it. A lot of people that I've heard play it don't really like it. I just kind of need some buffs, unfortunately. But let me know if you actually play it and you like it. Vindicator, we're gonna put here in the A, which is kind of weird. But a Vindicator that is able to stay in melee range is S++++++. The Vindicator, if you ever hear that shing noise, which you will know once you go against Vindicator, if you hear it, get out of the way. Even as a Warden, a Vindicator will absolutely destroy you in melee range. Like, I had a Vindicator, didn't have a whole lot of gear on. I mean, I just had basic gear on too. Absolutely was wrecking me in melee range as a Warden, destroying me. Now he still won the fight because they're able to get out of range and be able to kite him. But Vindicator is absolutely insane in pretty much all aspects of the game other than 1v1s. Vindicator sucks unless it's going against a melee class. A well-played Vindicator is absolutely devastating. Last, Warden. The Warden needs to go like right up here. Like, we're gonna put Warden up here in the S+++++++ class. The Warden's busted. The Warden has pretty much infinite sustain, has decent damage, it has anti-stealth, it has ranged, it has melee, it has stakes, it has protections, it literally has everything you could ever want in a class. The only way you don't want to play Warden is if you're literally going for the highest damage possible in the game. You don't want to play Warden. If you want to play anything else, play Warden. As you can see, if you've been out there, there are more Wardens than anything. This right here, bro. This Barbarian, I could put like it. If this was a tier list, like Barbarian would be like right here compared to the Warden. Now, I mean, that's not necessarily true, but the Warden is just so good. I played a ton of Warden. I know it's broken. I was playing it before it was broken, but now that I'm playing it and it's broken, it's absolutely insane. And to be fair, it wasn't like, I don't think they actually changed anything. It was just Radical was so oppressive that Wardens didn't get their time to shine. But Wardens are the best class in the game when it comes to small group. It's really not even close, to be completely honest. You know, Warden's broken. Hopefully they get a nerf here soon, even though I play them. They probably need it. They need to probably nerf to Trapmaster, and I would actually take away the resetting the stakes. That's what makes them so good in large scale and short scale. I think if you made the Trapmaster cooldown longer and you gave them the ability to not reset your stakes, they would be still a S tier class, but they would more like be online with like the Barbarian. If you want to really nerf them, you would nerf their sustain somehow, but it's really hard to nerf the sustain without nerfing the Archer in the Brigand. But I think if you nerf Trapmaster, nerf stake reset, I think Warden will at least come down to a manageable level and people could actually beat them. Now you can build the Warden so many different ways, which is part of the reason why I love the Warden. But it's just, there's no doubt in my mind, in anybody's mind really, the Warden is the best small scale group class right now. You can tell that by the fact that when you go out there, there's like 80 different Wardens out there. Like everywhere you go, all you see is Wardens. All right, so here's my tier list. If you disagree with me, let me know in the comment section down below. This video is like 40 freaking minutes long, but it's hard when you have this many classes to talk about each one of them at least a little bit and get the tier list down. You can play any of these classes. Let me know if you play any of the ones like, you know, below B. Let me know if you have any cool builds that you've came up with. I haven't, you know, played the whole lot of them. Maybe you have an Archmage build that's really cool. Maybe you're absolutely dumpstering people on your Slayer. Let me know in the comments section down below, because I'm always interested in seeing other people's builds. I try to come up with as many as I possibly can, but it's a little difficult, you know, because gold's kind of strained. I guess I could go on the test server, but I really want to take it to live server, test it out, you know, try it and see how it works for everybody to play. All right, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comment section down below if you play any of these classes that maybe I have a little bit ranked too low. Let me know what you think I should change here. Maybe you think Battle Rager is S class. Maybe you think Archer is C class. Maybe you think Slayer is D class. Let me know. I moved the ice color. Let me know in the comment section down below, and I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.